What was it that you would say was one of the hardest times in your life?
Phew. Um, I had a lot of hard times. I had a lot of hard times, a lot of difficult times. But probably the day before my mom died, my mom, before she went into the hospital, she had HIV, and she was in and out of the hospital because of that. And she was raped, and she was also hit by a car, and that made that
Is this
that
all within
enabled her
the,
to
the
walk.
same
So
year?
say it again.
Was this all in the same year?
Yeah, this was probably the last 2 years of her life. She was in a hospital because she couldn't get around because the car accident and the HIV turned into AIDS, so it was taking her out. Um, Visiting her in the hospital, there was times where she was in a different world, and she would tell me about how she would or she could vision herself in a casket, and she would tell me about all her dreams of dying, and it was hard. So the last night before she passed away, she couldn't see. She lost her sight. She still had consciousness. She knew who people were, but she was screaming for me. She was screaming for me. She was screaming for my brother. But my brother, he was already in jail, so he couldn't come. So she's holding my hand, and she's screaming, she's screaming, and she's screaming. And, she didn't want to die. And I think that was probably one of the hardest days. And she ended up dying the next day,
Oh
um,
man.
which is another story. But that was probably one of the hardest days.
And I'm sorry to hear that. And I know just an offline conversation. You said during that moment of your life is where you found your relationship with God.
Yes. Yeah. So, like I had a meeting last night with a bunch of wonderful kids in Washington D.C. at the New Community Church, and I was telling the pastor asked me when I discovered the Lord, like a real discovery, and I explained to her the next night after my mom and I had our last encounter. I was deciding whether if I should go home or if I should go back and endure that same pain that I had to deal with the night before. And I decided that I wanted to go home. And 2 or 3 steps into my walk home, I felt uh, a godly feeling, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. But I felt a feeling from my head to my toes. And I looked up to the sky, and I saw a star placed inside of a half a moon.
Oh wow.
And that's impossible. You there's no you can't put a star in front of the moon. So I knew that was my mom. I knew that my mom was gone. And before I got home and people came up running up to me telling me that your mother passed away, I had already knew it. So before I even got home, people found me and told me my mom passed. So I knew for a fact that my mom passed that night. I knew my mom was okay. I knew she went to heaven, and that was my first real encounter with faith and God.